one of the things to talk about is more understanding about what's happening with the way automation and AI are being utilized. And a lot of people, I don't think, understand. The mechanisms are generally being purchased for the purpose of blacklisting. And a lot of people, they don't understand. They go, what do you mean blacklisting? I use it to sort. Well, let me get into this a little bit here, because there's a difference between buying a device to increase efficiency and multiply enlightenment and offer more equality, more efficiency, so forth, etc., versus are you trying to do something else? Are you trying to do something with a nefarious purpose? For instance, Julie Sue, EED. She utilized computers, basically, to do a system where she designed it where it's going to do what? It's going to find people that are not American citizens or claim that they're not American citizens, that are not necessarily even located in the United States, that have no way to verify their identity, and no way to verify much of anything, addresses or anything necessarily. And what they're going to do is just kick this thing in and end up sending a card out to somebody. So the system basically, what it's doing is you have to understand and look at the mindset of the overall item. The mindset is that, number one, that she's looking to find people who are poor and desperate or criminal. Many of these people that would be poor and desperate, that would be what? Located outside of the country, would be interested in the money for what? Possibly using it to get to the country. The increment amount is oddly pretty kind of sort of near that money you needed to get smuggled across the border. 10 grand would get you smuggled across the border. So, basically, the headset here is that she's thinking that she's going to attract these people, and it's going to be like a probably a 75% chance that these people are going to end up becoming voters, or of those that become voters are going to be Democrats. But she's doing more than that. It's more than that. The demographic goes after people with lesser intelligence. People lesser intelligence because it's people that would not already be operating where basically they would be in a situation where life would be happening. Usually, more people that are more intelligent have something already occurring in their life financially. They're employed. Therefore, the flip on this is that you're appealing to people in the system, and with the advertisement, keep in mind the advertisements, to go after people that basically are really seriously broke or they're criminal minded. So you end up having a bunch of people who are from a foreign government who are criminal minded. Now, keep in mind, in some of these instances, it worked out to a direct funding program for operatives from a foreign country. Keep in mind, operatives from a foreign country would read this plan of what Julie Sue was doing and look at this and go, wow, look at this. They're handling out all this free money. Hey, all we got to do is get some people, go get some burner phones. Yeah, and find a couple, some dump addresses, and we can just, boom, just really, really make a bunch of money. So here you have people from foreign countries that can utilize this system to pay the way for their operations. You also have the criminal factor. You have to think deep about this a little bit to grab it. and then step back and then look at the simplicity of it, and you'll see how it's effectively right. What is that? And you'll see how it's effectively right, where basically what you're looking at is criminal conduct. People who are going to look at this type of an advertisement scheme and say, oh yeah, immediately it just clicks in their head, Oh yeah, it's free money. All you got to do is this. So it's like a custom shot to go ahead and find people who are criminals and just go ahead and boom, lock them in. So the system is looking to attract people who are not only poor, but they're also criminally mindset. In other words, people who are more apt to be amoral, more apt to be sociopaths, more apt to be psychopaths. So this is what's being attracted into the country with what she's doing. And it's one of those things that, basically the logic is inescapable. So how has she used the technology again? She's used it for blacklisting. Number one, she's blacklisting Republican viewpoints. Number one. The concept of Democrat versus Republican. So like me as a Democrat, I have to say, well, you know what? That's despicable. That's going to bring shame on Democrats. How dare you? How dare you? Literally. I mean, I have a mind, I have a brain, so I have to stand up and say, excuse me, how dare you do that? You're going to bring shame on Democrats. How dare you? Because this is a despicable thing to do. Because I'm not stupid. I can see this, The logic in this is virtually inescapable. So she's using the system to blacklist Republicans. She's filtering it around. She's also using the system to basically blacklist certain types of people. It blacklists people who are financially with and people that are super intelligent. So they're being blacklisted out of the system. Why is that? So that doesn't sound like it makes sense. It actually does if you think about it. The reason it does is because the whole idea that she's trying to do is attract people that are dumber. She wants to attract people that are dumb and people that are criminal so she can use aspect vote recovery, where the appeal for advertisements will appeal to people who are poor with criminal mindsets. So in other words, this is what she wants because she knows that there's a demographic that she is what? She is creating the demographic. This demographic is going to go through several states, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe like 5 states. You could say maybe 7, but kind of 5 states fairly strong there. But she knows because she's creating the demographic, because she went through the mathematical logic of creating the advertising, of creating the mechanism. She created the mechanism. So she understands the exact formula, and then you can work with the exact formula with AI and understand all the other applying psychological facets. This gets you the ability later on at a later point to do maximum harvest advertising, especially when you're talking about harvesting over people that have lower IQs. So this is something that is done by someone who has a high IQ. She knows what she's doing. This means that you're talking about an ethics problem that's very, very serious. Very serious mindset. Ideally, what you would want to do is you would want to take, Julie Sue, put her in an fMRI, and we're talking extensive sessions. Lots of pharmaceuticals in her extensive sessions because you want to recover all those types of mindset workings that she went through, that she did. quite in depth. So, so what else did she do with the technology? You know, she programmed the technology to do straight, you know, expressway one way, but another way she deliberately engineered this huge theme park, this huge merry-go-round, this huge go through all these different rides and switches, be forced to listen to information repeatedly. Do not allow express buttons. In other words, the normal feature of these type of items is that you would do a pass-through. You would hit a certain button to jump past all the stuff. No. See, that mechanism was not allowed. In fact, it was deliberately programmed not to allow that. See, this is something that is a deliberate engineered mindset. So in other words, again, she's blacklisting. She's deliberately going to waste people's time. So this is blacklisting. This is in the blacklisting mindset. So again, if you're a professional, this is yet again another very important high point. It's crucial. All these different points are crucial points. So what else did she do to the system? The system also apparently had various other types of lockouts, various other types of discrimination, blacklisting. In other words, you make money available all the time for people who have no identity, all the time. But you turn around and you decide to make packet sizes and size amount allocations for a different area that are smaller. So you run out of money. In other words, we have lots of money for people who are not citizens that have no identity nor proof of their identity. Yet people who are citizens that clearly are the main targets of being entitled to the money to begin with, they're being told, we're out of money for 3 weeks. This happens like repeatedly. Or at least that's what we were told if you were going through the system. So again, blacklisting, a difference between dividing the money up, how you divide the money up and allocate it, and what's available versus what's not available. When instead of just having a straight open amount of money that's clearly available all the time, she's dividing it into different ways. Again, blacklisting. Who gets it? Who doesn't get it? Blacklisting. So there are those of us who use the system and discovered there's other blacklisting in there. Literally certain names. There are certain people that couldn't get it. Like people would call up and say they were petitioners. And they said I wouldn't qualify, it wouldn't work. So what is she doing again? Blacklisting. She's deliberately blacklisting petitioners. And then when you look at Shirley Weber, apparently there's no surprise. She doesn't react. She doesn't bat an eye. She doesn't get upset. She doesn't investigate. She doesn't bat an eye. Which means in her mind, there's no surprise. This is based upon her not reacting at all. In fact, superior knowledge, knowing that the information just came on front of her desk, she's supposed to act no matter what. She just had a candidate do a complaint. And she's not going to respond to it. The people, the staff, they're not going to credit or respond either. They won't credit somebody who's owed money. So they're blocking candidates from the ballot. So first they block your income to have any money. Then they're going to block paying you compensation. Then they're also going to say, we've refused to acknowledge the fact that we owe you money that was ordered by Congress. So again, you have intentional blacklisting of different categories of people. You can jump around here in a lot of different ways. You have different players, different areas, different supportive factors, in many ways when you look at it, because you have people with what? Superior knowledge. Superior knowledge. Again, the same type of brains of certain styles of management, literally conspiring to blacklist people. So eventually you have these other types of areas. Like I know, you go in, you put your name into it, your name is specifically blacklisted. No matter which computer you use, you're blacklisted. You confront somebody with it and they go, oh, well, that's just a glitch in the system. But of course, well, we don't have any money in this area right now. So a lot of people are going, how could that be that you have money for people that have no identity, and you can give that money out unlimited, but you have no money for people who are entitled to the benefit? What's going on? You know, what's Julie Sue doing here? You know, what kind of fraud is this? You know, so what you're doing is, again, another area of blacklisting. So now they get other lists that they infuse into the system, different types of lists that they're going to use to discredit people, to disqualify people, to lessen people. They're not lists designed to enhance people, yet they'll say that. Oh yeah, well, we're going to try to enhance and accelerate people to the finish line. No, that's not what you're doing at all. It's a carte blanche thing. If you have American citizens that are affected, then it's a carte blanche thing. You know they're all affected because you have generalized shutdown. It's a generalized shutdown. The carte blanche factor is for the citizens, not the non-citizens. And this is what was ordered by Congress. So there's no logical reason whatsoever to do added reinforcement lists on identities. So somebody catches fraud and says, oh, we've got a whole bunch of fraud. What do you mean there's a whole bunch of fraud? Well, we got people doing it multiple times. This, the fraud was connected to this carte blanche open door. You don't have to prove your identity or nothing. So what they do is they say, oh yeah, well we'll try to re-enhance that. Then what she does is she uses list and different types of material that's commercially available. A lot of it was material from credit ratings and stuff like that, you know, bank credit ratings, that kind of stuff at type companies. And they're going to try to tap these companies in, spend a huge expensive money, and come up with overlapping list to check. And what this actually is blacklisting again. These are methods of disqualification. The entire concept of loan discrimination is blacklisting. Oh, your credit rating's poor. That's blacklisting. And somebody says, no, it's not. I says, when it comes to new home loan, when it comes to you want to build a new home loan, you're going to get paid in increments, just like a contractor does, as you do the development. There's no excuse to discriminate against you no matter what. You're an owner-builder. So the credit rating doesn't come into play, but it does come into play. That means, what do you have? Blacklisting, discrimination. So when you have an open carte blanche opportunity that says, well, we already know here's the thing, the carte blanche shutdown basically means other than people who are already working at Walmart or working at a major grocery store or a gasoline store, this short list of stores basically that they knew were open. Other than that, everybody else technically by the carte blanche is ordered shut down, which means it's entirely dumb. It's a moot point to try to put in any form of discrimination factors, any form of sorting factors. People already have normal sorting factors. They call in, you want their identity, they tell you what their identity is. Okay, you got their identity. They give you an address. Okay, you got an address. Okay, you got a bank. You can ask them things like, do you have a bank account already? This helps if you have a bank account. Some people didn't have a bank account. Getting money to homeless people was important. That was a different procedure. But again, so you have anybody who has a bank account kind of sort of already has a credit rating, which means there's no reason to go through all these extra processes. Later they keep adding more and more. So in other words, They want you to upload a photo ID. Why? Yeah, see, it's a joke. It's like a joke. Why? You give them your bank. You give them your name, and you give them your bank account number. People are like, what? Yeah, because the verification is automatic. The identity is going to match when you go to check the bank, and the money's going to go into the bank account of that identity. And now you have a defined list of that identity, and you already know that your system can check to see if the name gets used more than once, because maybe they have multiple bank accounts, right? But the same name would come up then, and a cross identifier would tell them whether or not it's a shared bank account or the same identity bank account. So you don't need any of this. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever to go through all these extra processes. Where were they used? Were they used on the people that had no identities and no verification? No, they weren't, because that was an entirely different design process. So those kept moving high speed, ka-chung, ka-chung, ka-chung. So what she did is, people complain and say, oh yeah, there's a problem with crime. So what does she do? She adds additional blacklisting to people. This is amazing. This is amazing. So again, she's using computers, again, repeatedly. The mindset is blacklisting, blacklisting, blacklisting. Disqualifying, disqualifying, disqualifying. How do we figure out more ways to disqualify people? That's blacklisting. The purity of logic does not come into play into base utilization. Because base design utilization would be, great, what's your name? Or let me simplify this for you. What's your bank account? You give them your bank account number. That's one number. You give them your bank account number. You don't even give them your PIN. You don't do nothing. You give them one bank account number, and the system's automatically going to say, oh, we have authorization connected to this bank account. So when they connect to the computer, to the banking computer system, it says, oh, yeah, you have that bank card. Yes. If you're using a bank card as an expressway card, like a credit card, the system still comes up and says, oh, we have all this identity stuff. Is it enough money to force a signature verification? Oh, it's low amount? No, don't worry about the signature verification. Just push it through. It's not efficient to do all this extra labor. So it's just going to push it through. But regardless, a matched set of information comes out, which does what? That gives you all the information that you need. It gives you the person's name. It gives you the bank branch location that they have the account out of. It gives them their home. Gives you the home address. It gives you everything. So anyone who had a bank account, all they needed to do was give them their bank account. Snap. That's it. That's all you had to do. You're done. Just like that. But is that the way they activated the system to work? No. That's not what they did. Repeatedly, the mental faculties utilized again and again struggled to come up with different methodologies, all surrounded around blacklisting or trying to hide the fact that they were blacklisting. You have people that were getting blacklisted, like for instance, you put your name in, computers don't work. Oh, it doesn't work in your phone. Oh, we'll try a regular PC. Oh, that didn't work either. Oh, well, you just get another computer. I just used 12 computers at your substations, and they seem to work fine for everybody else. They just wouldn't work when I went to do this. As soon as I put my name in it locked up. Oh, so you filmed this. This is what I did. You filmed this. And it's like, yeah, you know exactly what happened because you filmed this. And what this is this is called a blacklist. It's a hidden part of the mechanism of a blacklist. Who arranged for this to be there? Julie Sue did this. That's criminal. This is a criminal intent area. You're talking about an extra area of blacklisting that there's no way anybody can possibly explain why that style of blacklisting is put in. It's absolutely criminal. Hidden line blacklisting. Ooh. So this is done as well. Again, so she's using what? Computer equipment We're talking automated, AI, computer, whatever you're working with, for blacklisting. This is repeatedly used throughout industry and throughout government. The mindset repeatedly is from the standpoint of blacklisting, blacklisting, blacklisting. Julie Sue's methodologies in her head have two types of thinking. One, the express thinking for what she wants to achieve with some kind of strange goal. And the other one is the ultimate insurance company upstairs, downstairs. How do we delay people as long as possible, but make it seem plausible? So they create a mechanism where people call on the phone hour after hour after hour. I had 3 phones. I'm sitting here filming it. I have 3 phones. I'm filming this, and you can't get through. 3 phones at the same time, and I can't get through. We're talking day after day, hour after hour, week after week. This is not even funny. The media notices this. They have it all over the news. Again, what's going on here? Blacklisting. It's deliberately engineered to do that. Blacklisting. Another part about identifying blacklisting and the mechanisms of blacklisting is you use the understanding of superior knowledge mindsets. The ability to parties that have virtually unlimited funding for all intents, and they have unlimited access to expert and legal information analysis, so forth, etc. So these are people, superior knowledge. There's basically little reason for them to really make mistakes. There's really not much reason for them to make. They're professionally trained. They have access. If they need to look something up, they can. They can. It's not a problem. They can call someone else and find out. So when you run into a series of people where their mindsets use things, thought patterns a certain way, when they react a certain way, you run into what? Blacklisting. Blacklisting. It's really bad at this level, though, because when you discover blacklisting mindsets, you have a major problem with people, because these people are dangerous. These people just failed the big test. Basically, the rule of thumb says those fire immediately, these people never can be allowed ever in certain areas. Government, judicial system, security, national security, intelligence, banking. You cannot allow anybody like this, because anybody with these types of mindsets are going to be negative towards humanity. They're always going to be biased in some sort of way. Back and forth, seriously minded people. And this is a problem. Of course, meanwhile, we have to make society continue to function. But nonetheless, the factor's there, the factor's real. So the reality of, well, we have to work with it until we have something better. Kind of sort of wrong answer, but most people look around and say, look, we're stuck. What are we going to do? What you're supposed to do is realize that maybe you do need to fire people. So now another way, we jump back to the Julie Sue thing. What's happening with the EDD? They have all these outstations. They have more than 30,000 employees that are employed for employment rescheduling, employment assistance, employment training, all employment redevelopment, all these neat little extra facets. But it's COVID, everything's shut down. Why would anybody want to be doing any training? And you don't want to bring people into a training area, attract people, then you're getting gobs of people together. So they put that down to a minimum level, but they still keep the doors open for certain crucial items. However, the logic here is you have 70% of your employees in that area, you're not utilizing them. They're available for quick retraining to do things. What could you use them for? You could immediately retrain them for phone work to use a computer terminal, which can be any place, like their house. Oh, they don't have one? Buy them one. No brainer here. Yeah, buy them one. Oh, we can't find it. Yeah, you can. Just, you go down the store, And so you can immediately train these people to work with systems. But the part of the problem is they're making complex systems instead of simple systems. In other words, there's different ways you can do things. Like, for instance, You interview people, you take their bank card. Say, okay, your name, you say, okay, all right. What do? You use audio. You see if the audio prints out text, speech to text. See if it prints out the document correctly. Okay, the name, all this information seems correct. Even if it's not placed in proper brackets and in proper areas, don't worry about it. You've got it on a text sheet. That information, you look at it, you listened as you did the interview, it's correct. It's correct. You put your name on it, you say, yeah, it's correct. So you get the bank number, you get the card number, basically. That's it, you're done. That's it, you're done, basically. Because you ask them little things like, okay, can we send, the address that you have at your bank account, that's okay for us to send you any responses to, yes or no? If somebody says no, then, well, now you got to take a separate address. But essentially you have all of this research done in an instant. Now, there's other types of mechanisms you could use. For instance, different types of situations involving different people. Number one, you have recycling centers that are open. So what do? Well, recycling centers have a forced policy from the state that says if somebody brings in like 100 pounds of copper wire, they want to make sure it's not stolen, like somebody just ripped it out of a house. So they want to give time for a crime report to develop. So there's a mark point. I think 100 pounds is 24 hours. 500 or 1,000 pounds is like 72 hours, 3 days. So basically, they have cameras there. They take photographs, plus they fill these little tiny pieces of paper out. They're practically like a card, but they're soft paper. They get a fingerprint. So basically, you can send people down to a recycling center. They're already connected to the state. You simply call up these recycling centers, which, by the way, you already have. There's already a mechanism that has a list. In other words, you call the state center that already has a list of the communication already. And you say, do you have an email for all these people? And they go, yes, we do. Great. Bunch them all together like it's going to be a spam ticket and send them the new communication point of how we're going to deal with this data, a new intake. Or you just tell them, set up a new allowance file. A very quick program change. You can program or do it in a very short period of time. And so you could actually do it right there at the centers at the state level that is verifying the information coming in from the recyclers. You need a little extra help there? Sure, no problem. You can figure that out very quickly. Very quickly. As quick as, we're short, call up a work agency and see if anybody wants to work. We've got emergency work that's exempt from COVID, whatever. So what you do is you got all these different mechanisms. It's very simple. Somebody goes down, they say, yeah, I have an ID. Great. Put it down. They're going to take a photograph of it. Snap. Okay, perfect. Okay. You want a bunch of money? Okay, fill this out. We just want a left fingerprint. Can you give us a left thumbprint right here? Left thumbprint. Boom. Now it's distinctive. It's different than anything else. It's a left thumbprint. So, so here it is. You have two factors that you can utilize. Now, technically, you wouldn't need anything else. And someone comes in and says, man, I lost everything. I got robbed, whatever their problem is. They got no bank account. Fine. Fingerprint. Left fingerprint. Boom. What's that for? That's to verify so we can scan it that no person, no fingerprint is given money more than once. Okay. You only have, I believe the reoccurrence in fingerprints is 4 per million, where people have a duplicate fingerprint, whether people have the same fingerprint. So figure that out. Then you're talking 300 million people in the country. So you're talking, 2,400 people in the whole country that could possibly be in the anomaly factor. That's not very many people, which probably also are going to have what? Identification or something. So how many's going to, out of that 2,400 people, who's going to be left in the anomaly factor that doesn't have another mechanism that they can utilize? The odds are that 90% of them, boom, good to go. So you're left basically with possibly 240 people. So then you got 240 people that might need to do something different. So in that case, then you have to do something different. We're going to have to do something different, which is what? We need a photograph of your face. Okay, you just basically solved it. That's it. It's over with mathematically. Not that there can't be necessarily another mathematical anomaly come up, but, you're talking about billions to one, trillions to one at that point. So you just solved it. It's done. So these people are not thinking about efficiency. They're not thinking about enlightenment. They're not thinking about fairness. They're not thinking about equality. They're thinking about nothing about angles, and blacklisting. How do we screw people around? So you have other people in mind in the state that do something else. What do? They were taking names down of applicants, and then they were taking that data, and they were forwarding that data to fill the claim forms so that they could send information into the government and say, this is how many people actively have requested, and we believe the number's beyond this, but this is the active request that we have of money we're definitely going to need. So they're going to work with their estimations. Plus, we need a buffer zone to have money on file for people who haven't arrived yet. So basically what ends up happening really quick is people end up filing stuff. They're told there's no money available. They take your name down. They send it in. They're collecting the cash. They collected the cash. Where did the cash go? Julie Sue reapportioned the cash in a different way that came in. She redivided the piles different ways and says, we're only going to put so much over here for this and so much over here for that. And then we're going to put a bunch of this, fly out the door stuff. So, into this, it's, again, blacklisting. Blacklisting fraud. Now what else is into this? The opportunity for ultimate fraud. All she has to do is talk to one person and say, hey, I got this idea. This is how this works. Here's a little slip of paper. These are the instructions. You go get burner phones and you go find addresses where nobody's at, and you do this, you do this, you do this. And we don't have a fraud investigation crew. Now, next item. Before I go on that, so is she in conspiracy? How do you prove this? Could she have done this? Could she have one person that she could have arbitrarily made a business deal with, or knew before, or walked up to a total criminal that's a stranger? Now, keep in mind they had a list there. One of the options on the list is really remarkable. One of the options on the list, somebody else pointed this out to me. I couldn't believe it. This is, look, did you know that there's an option on this? If you're a criminal, I forgot where I saw that. It was a news media program or somebody came up with this. Look, people can go in and say, I'm a criminal. I need money so I don't have to go rob people. Bing, they'd hook them right up, Here you go. Apparently that was on the list. That was kind of a joke. But so she could use that to find somebody that straight out says that they're a criminal. So then she could take that number. She could contact them separate with the burner phone and say, I got a job for you. It's a good job. So yeah, here's some money and here's what you're going to do. And bingo, bango, bongo. So, where did that go? Where can it go? Well, again, the simple thing is fMRI. $3.1 billion is gone. What does that mean? It means it's a mandatory fMRI situation. There's no way around it. No way around it. It's the way to do it. That'll get us the answers. So, perfect example, $31 billion missing, fMRI. Let's figure this out. Now, so if we look at some of these other areas, what else do we have on these areas? We have, okay, so we have other areas on these items involving other types of ways you can look at the criminal intent. One of the types of criminal intent is in the handling. Hold on. Okay, so there's other ways to do the criminal intent, a bunch of other ways, but I got distracted, so my mind is off a bit. One of the other areas here that's important to deal with is what do you do with all these people that came from another country that have perhaps, maybe, criminal intent, that are, possibly lower on the mental faculty level. Okay, what you do is, number one, we can use SAR, old data, to try to track where the money went, where the money was spent. These are sets of anomalies. You can put computers to work on it. It's expensive, but you can do it on automatic. And you can find out who these people are by identity. You also can match up people that made it into the country and says, yeah, we matched you up. You did the program. You got the money. Okay, here's the deal. You have to agree to take an fMRI on demand if we decide, if you want to be able to come and stay in the country. So this gives us the right to use an fMRI basically on all these people. You could say you could do it for anybody, but it's expensive, number one. Is it good for your health? Actually, getting an fMRI scan of your, intensive scan of your body is actually a really good thing. Those are useful files. But at the moment they're expensive. There's not enough to go around. However, in the case where you need to reserve the possibility of discovering whether somebody is what? A psychopath. Yeah, you want to be able to do that. So it's very important to understand these levels of items. You can also change things and say due to the Jurley Sue factor, you might have to say we cannot allow people to naturalize and become citizens on the same scale. In other words, the dating is off. All bets are off. We can just turn off the ability for people to become citizens. You can also turn off the ability for new citizens to become voters and say, we're just going to cut that off for a certain number of years, and you've kind of sort of resolved part of the problem, like right away. You just, boom, we're just cutting it off. No more new voters that are non-citizens or recent citizens. Sorry. So you can do that. So that's difficult. No, you can. There's a way to do that. So, basically, what are the measures that you could take if you have to take some? Because there has to be compensation. The woman just committed something criminal. She included a political agenda. You have to have a fair compensative factor. What is the fair compensative factor? There must be a fair compensative factor. If your brain says, no, there can't be a compensative factor of some type, can be negotiated, there's a lot of different ways of looking at this, then what are you going to do? Seriously, what are you going to do? Because then you have an intent of people saying that their intent is what? Criminal. So there has to be the intent for fairness. So what is fairness? That can get creative. There can be a lot of different demands over that, over what somebody wants that says what's realistic. What's realistic on the statistical boards of this, that, or the other thing. So there's a lot of ways you can look at that, as opposed to just what people want. Just what people want isn't necessarily legit. You have to sit there and look at the psychology of the trends of what was before for sure versus what can be, and keep it in mind with constitutionality. So there's a set of complexities right there. So if you're considering different forms of even compensative reasoning for correctiveness, in other words, you're evaluating, you're considering the possibility. We've discovered the logic of understanding blacklisting to a significant point. At this point, you now also need to have creative styles of solutions available that make sense in order to resolve the problem. So if you're building a language model, if you're building a data AI language model system that's going to be dealing with this type of criteria and understanding, a baseline understanding that you can only sell a device of certain natures with new certain styles of programming. In other words, you're saying we're basically going to ban people from using the technology for blacklisting. Nope, we're not going to allow you to use blacklisting. And people say, well, I just want to sort it this other way. Well, that just might be a way of blacklisting. So you're saying that the device has to have reasoning compensative understanding to be able to do analysis to see whether or not somebody's doing blacklisting. So this, again, this is a completely important territory to look at. And there are so many of these territories. It's just, zip, zap. It's mind-boggling. There's just so many of these territories. It's mind-boggling. So, now, of course, luckily, we're going to have, AI to help sort through all this stuff. Mind-boggling. So the limitations are how well is the AI going to do sorting through this stuff. That's the big holdback. Now, as AI gets better, it's going to do a much better job. So you got to still have the human factor of people sorting through to see if it's sorted the data right. Look through and see if you see a pattern that wasn't addressed that should have been addressed. This can also be enormously helpful. Now, flip side, continued area of importance for High Point here is what are you going to do for other types of compensation? In other words, people who got blacklisted, all these other people. First of all, we need to have a category. This is like a mandatory item. We need to have a category that addresses all of this, and we got to figure out how to tree it out and figure out what happened. And that can become more expansive as we look on the data situation more and more. We also have this. So far, a quick review on this information is good for the political understanding. It's good for our current campaign, our current elections. It's good for future data governance. It's good for law. It's going to be good for compensative factors, creative compensative factors, especially since I have other compensative factor reasoning type stuff. That I'll be able to use to deal with this. So you can go places with this. This is something you can do. So pause. Now, ideally, as we move forward with these, you want to move anything you do into having different reasoning structures. So, is it good for law? Is it good for engineering? What are the crossovers on it? Anytime there's wrongdoing, it's the having different types of compensative realities can be helpful. Marking them out if it's serious criminal factors. When you're talking about the effect, what is the effect of Julie Sue? She blacklisted a bunch of people. Okay, where does that go? Well, someplace she's committed crimes against humanity. There's just too many people. All these crimes. In my case, she's responsible for being a participant in causing a delay, this, that, the other thing, whatever, in part of the destruction of an archive. Okay, that's the death penalty. So ultimately what's going to need to happen with her? I'll tell you the truth. As time state goes along, if you do comparative reasoning in criminology, as to the history of criminology, just go back 200 years and come to date, she fits in a category where she's such a monster, it's mind-boggling. We're talking mandatory death penalty. I mean, like many, many, many times over. I've already was equating this at certain times. It's just so mind-boggling. It's incredible. And other people are thinking like, oh, no. No, there's no escape. This is so far into fair international law understanding that she has to die because of the enormity of how many crimes she's committed. Is just mind-boggling. Mandatory death penalty area. So it's just one of those things. It's just one of those analysis things that comes up, that's inescapable. So, and someone says, well, that doesn't sound right. Let's start at the beginning because I want to go to lunch. Real quick, $31 billion. Okay, we're there already. From there it gets worse it gets worse. So that having been said, we're there. So I'm going to end this pod item. I guess someone might listen to it for my campaign. If you do it for that, Michael Crosby for POTUS, running for 2024. Thank you.